Hello, everyone. We are here today to record another episode of Unbroken Stories of Adoption and Identity. So, today I'm so excited to have a very special guest. Her name is Deyonne. Welcome, Deyonne.
Hey.
So, let me tell you a little bit about Deyonne. So, Deyonne is a PMU, a permanent makeup artist, right? So, she has done my eyebrows, my eyeliner, and what do you call it?
Lip blushing. Yeah, lip blush
blushing,
and
right?
neutralization. Yep.
So during one of my appointments, we were just sharing and talking and just getting to know one another, and come to find out that she is an adoptee.
Yes.
And so it was exciting because one thing about this journey of being an adoptee is you don't really talk about it. And, I only knew a couple people that were my peers that were adoptees. So when she had shared that she was an adoptee, and then when I started this podcast, I was like, will you be a guest? So I want to thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate you coming on and being willing to share your story. So what I like to do is break it up in kind of like 3 chapters. Like when you were aware that you were adopted, which would be sort of like chapter 1. Chapter 2 would be more about the story, your story. And then chapter 3 would be more about how you being an adoptee, how it had affected your identity.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to let you get started. Tell us about your adoption story, how you found out, what age, just the background.
Okay.
Yes.
So I was adopted at the age of 6. I found out right away that I was. But the story, I guess you just want like background of the story.
Like tell me when you said you knew right away. So start from there.
Yeah, so I knew right away that I was adopted. So my adopted family is a mix of races. My parents are white. They have adopted Black, Asian, Hispanic. So it's a big family, a big community. But I knew that I was adopted at the age of 6. But prior to then, I was in foster care. So kind of story behind all this, my biological mother she actually didn't put me up for adoption. She had left myself and my sister. She left my sister on a bus, and she left me at the house, and she did call the police to let them know, but she framed herself as the neighbor that was finding the children. So after some time, she came forth and indicated that she was the mother, but at that time they had deemed her mentally unstable to be able to take care of us. Her story behind that was that my sister's father was trying to kill her, and she wanted to find a way to protect us and didn't really have as much support from her family at that time. So at that point, we were put into the system. We were separated, but God is good. My adopted mother went on a search once I came into their care. She went on a search for my sister, who.
So were your adopted parents, did they foster you?
They did.
Okay.
So they weren't my first foster family. I went to 2 previous families prior to then. And then as soon as I came with them, I think it was maybe 4 when I went with them. And then my adoptive mom, she was a foster parent. So we had kids. It was always kids in the house. So it was always probably like in between 3 to 5 different kids at a time. They would stay, go, come, go, but then she did some research to find that I did have a sister in the system. She went on a hunt to find her, and my sister was actually she was about to be adopted into another family. So she had worked out, whatever arrangements to just say, hey, she wants to keep us together. So she went that length to make sure that we stayed together. And then my sisters, the parents that were going to adopt my sister, they became her godparents.
So your sister, what's the age range?
So we're a year and a half apart. Yep. And I do have other siblings, but it was after the fact of after
Okay.
my sister and I.
And so your other siblings, are they by the same parents?
Yes, so by
Okay.
my mother. So I do have a sister. She is doing so good. She's so good. I think Summer, how old is she? She is 28.
Okay.
Just graduated from Harvard. She's a doctor. She's doing really
Okay.
great.
Okay.
We do have different fathers, but yeah, so we have, and it's her, and then I'm my adopted family. We have, I think I'm one of 6.
Okay.
So
So your parents, so it's 6 siblings, and your
7
parents,
including her, yeah.
your adopted parents, they all fostered those 6 children.
Not all of them.
Okay.
So my adopted family ended up adopting just myself, my biological sister Christina, and then my sister Lisa.
Okay.
So and then they had 3 of their own.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about, once you knew at age 6 that you were adopted, the transition from being fostered to now, these are your parents.
Yeah.
And you knowing. Tell me about that experience.
I feel like there were different phases of it.
So share a little bit about those phases.
Yeah, I feel like first phase, it didn't really phase me. I was just happy that I had like a family. I had, my mom. It was always, like I said, they were always taking kids in as a foster parents. So we were always just around kids all the time. So it was rather fun to me. And then a little later, my adopted mom, she had always had leukemia throughout this entire process.
Okay. Wow.
But she got really sick, so we had to stop doing some of those, having as many kids come in and, so forth. So that was another phase of like, hey, I have a mom, but now my mom's getting really sick, and she ended up passing away when I was 10.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that was kind of a hard phase at that point, especially because it just didn't really make a lot of sense to me,
Pretty young.
Right. Yeah. And I think moving outside of being, in my adolescence phases, going into my teenage years, really trying to understand, like, where I kind of fit and belong sometimes was always a hard thing.
Okay.
Especially then kind of moving into college. And I think that was like the year where I felt a little bit more free to figure out some things that I couldn't really get access to. So
tell me now, when you say you couldn't get access to, go into that a little bit.
yeah, so I had always wanted to reconnect with my biological mom, and my adopted mom, before she had passed, she really did everything that she could do to keep contact with her.
Okay.
So we would still go on visits to go and see her, and but once she started getting sick, those visits stopped, the connections. My biological mom used to write us letters, and then after some time, it just kind of all stopped. But my biological mother didn't know that my mom was that sick. So she felt that since the communication had stopped, she felt like that was their way of saying, like, hey, we're moving on, and we're not going to, keep this open.
And around what age was that when their communication stopped? How old were you?
I was 10.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause you
Yep,
passed away
I
at
was
10.
10. Yep. So, and I didn't really have anything else. My dad, he was always working, so he wasn't really involved in the kind of conversation with her. It was really focused on my adoptive mom. Once I turned 18, I had a letter that I had kept, and I decided to reach out to the person that she indicated that if you can't ever find me, which I tried looking her up, and I couldn't find her, but she was like, if you can't ever find me, just contact Michael, which was my other sister's father.
Okay.
And I called him, and crazy, because I searched him up on Google, and I remember he had a business that came up, but I always remember too that Michael was blind. And I was so fascinated to understand like how everything was going, because I was like, if this is the same person, like construction business, like it was just the craziest thing. So I remember calling him though, and I was just like, hey, I don't really know if you know who I am, but my mom had always told me to reach out to you. And he was like, no, I know exactly who you are. I've been waiting for this call for like the last 10, 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he got me in contact with them.
So Michael was the biological dad of your sister.
Yes.
And your sister was Summer.
Yes.
Summer. Okay. Okay. So then how did you transition from, once you spoke to Michael, what occurred next in your life?
He gave me their contact. I connected. I reached out. My sister Summer at the time wasn't as open to connect with me.
Okay.
But I did, connect with my mom, and I did meet her on an occasion, which was a little awkward, only because I think I really don't know why, but maybe it was just after conversating and then seeing me in person, and then I don't know, maybe realizing that I was a full grown woman at that point. You know what I mean?
And so let me ask you, so how was her life at that time when you met her compared to how your life was? And let me tell you why I asked that, because sometimes her knowing she gave you away. How was her life? How was her mental state at that time? How did she feel about how you were living at the time? Kind of go into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think, at that point, I think she had kind of created her own life. I mean, I know that she went through a lot. So I think that it might have been that realization that life just kept moving, even if you were probably, thinking that it might have been a different connection. I was still open to that. But I don't know, I think it made her a little afraid, honestly.
Okay.
So, but at that time, I mean, she seemed to be doing well. She had married at that time. My sister Summer was graduating from Johns Hopkins, actually. That was when I had actually met her when she came out here. But we only spoke for maybe 5 minutes, and then she said that she left something at the hotel and she never came back. So
when's the last time you've been in contact with her?
I mean, we follow each other on Facebook, but we don't really connect as much. Yeah, we don't really connect as much, but yeah, I think that was the last time that I had seen her in person. We had done other video phone calls and stuff like that, but that was the last time I saw her in person.
Now, you said she had other children. Do you have a relationship with your other siblings?
I do. So, and I'll say, so Summer, yes, that kind of took a little bit of time to develop. And I'm thinking also of, she's actually my cousin, so she took my cousin in. So I'm thinking it kind of feels like siblings.
She took your cousin in as in your adopted mom?
No, my biological mom took in her niece, and she lived with them because her sister had passed away. Yeah. So, but I have connected with her as well. We're pretty, I think we're decent. We're not super close, but I do connect with her in Summer.
Yeah. So tell me more about how this whole experience, especially around your 1820s, because how old are you now, Deyonne?
I'm 35.
Right. So let's talk about your early 20s. How did that whole experience impact your identity as you're going through it?
Oh my gosh, in so many ways. I can't tell you.
So tell me.
I mean, it's so funny because when certain people meet you and then you tell them about your story, they're like, wait, what? You were adopted by white people? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it's just it's a story. It's like a wow, we had no idea type of thing. So that was at that time, because I feel like at that time, kind of migrating out of high school and, going into college, it was just a fascinating thing for people. I mean, and it also kind of like a semi strange piece for me, because sometimes they look at you like you're less black than what you are because you were adopted by white people.
Right.
And it's not even that. So I would be called oh, you're an Oreo, or oh, now we understand why you talk so proper. Oh, or, things like that.
Yeah.
But, I kind of, those were just pieces that I felt, were really overlooked, because at the end of the day, it's not true whatsoever. And I understand it's a different experience, but, I'm extremely blessed and grateful for the opportunity to be selected, especially at the time of, and I know my mother had her reasons for doing what she did, but to know that anything could have happened to me at that point, and to know that God has placed them as my parents. And I didn't have some people are like, well, how was it growing up? Were there anything weird happening? And I'm thankful I didn't have that experience. My parents were amazing. They would do anything for me. They didn't treat me any differently from their own biological children. I didn't feel like I was left out or looked differently. No, my mother would literally, she would go out of her comfortability to make sure that I was still around our people. You know what I'm saying? So whenever we would go get our hair done, you know, I was in a lot of kind of like big brother, big sister, different programs. She was just, she definitely wanted to make sure that I understood that at the end of the day, I am adopted. Doesn't change the fact that I'm still her daughter. And she was just going to make sure that I felt good in who I was, even though I didn't have all the pieces.
Right.
Like I didn't really know outside of my biological mother. I never met my biological father.
Okay.
I know that he's from St. Martin, and he was a little bit older than my biological mother, but I didn't really have a connection to that. So that was a piece that I kind of felt was missing. But yeah, so there was definitely phases of that. But I mean, I feel like, again, it kind of just allowed me to grow into this aspect of seeing the world in a way that I feel not everybody can see it. So yeah.
What I like too about adoption stories is, as I continue to bring on guests, it's so multi-layered, right? So with your adoption story, it's like, well, let me just go back. One thing I think is just so awesome about these stories is like you were chosen, right? And that's a good feeling. To like, you know, you have, maybe your story may have started off maybe not so great because of the circumstances, right? When you were young, but to be chosen by people says a lot, as opposed to like, you having children by you being a mother, I'm being a mother, that's a different identity as well, right? And then sounds like your mom wanted to make sure that you knew about your mom. That's important too.
Yep.
Opening that door, which was similar to my story, opening that door to allow you to allow space for you to be able to connect with your birth mom. I think that is critical, right? And again, you never know how it's gonna go, how the narrative is gonna flow.
Yeah.
But it's all a part of who you are.
Yep.
So I think that's really important. But I want you to talk a little bit more about, and you may have touched on a little bit more about the being adopted by a white family, right? And then how that shaped you into adulthood, into as you grew as a woman, because there's always this, like you said. Now let me ask you, was your birth mom able to? Yes, you said she had biological children, so she could have, Okay, so as you continue to develop as a woman, and now even up into this age, how did being adopted by a white family, how else did that shape you?
So again, so layered.
Yes.
It is very layered. And I think really, so let me say this. So my biological sister, she is actually Black and Asian.
Okay.
And then my other sister, who was adopted into the family as me, she's Black.
Okay.
We kind of kept a really close net around each other to be able to understand certain things. Oh my goodness, we were so crazy. To understand certain things and to connect with other people. So it was like, it wasn't just, I think it takes a village to raise, children, to really be able to like understand like who you are and like, the types of things that you tolerate, the type of things that you realize that are not right. That, hey, look, if we having this discussion, you have to understand that these types of things affect me, right? And I think that was that piece. I just think about our community. We had so many, our friends, our family friends, like it was just very supportive, and also just, again, it was like nothing was really hidden. Like there wasn't we didn't really have any reason not to have these conversations.
And I love that. I love too what you shared, like it being multicultural. I really like that. I think it's important. I think it's important as a Black woman, like that, and me raising Black girls, that we expose our children and ourselves to other cultures. Like you're saying, the Asian culture, and and the fact that your mom made sure that you were supported as a young black girl.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So have you ever, you know, besides, remember when you shared with me, have you ever got like awkward responses when people, when you maybe say, "Oh, I'm adopted"?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, all the time.
So
All the time.
So tell me about that. Tell me about that. Like,
to
tell
me,
me,
it's
like, yeah.
it's not awkward for me. I think
Right.
it's more awkward for them because they're like, well, I don't really know, like,
Mm-hmm.
what should I say from here, or like, what do you know? It's not like I didn't really feel like I had like this veil over me the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just kind of in this whole world of like, hey, there's no other black people. There's no other way that I can actually understand who I am as a woman. Like why I'm shaped the way I am. How do I be able to comfortably, I'm sorry, that might be a little bit much, but clean yourself. Like, you know, different aspects that, you know, weren't fully what people think are like, hey, that's probably not your experience. But no, I feel very comfortable in talking about it, but it's not the first thing I lead with.
Right.
Right.
Of course,
it's
of
not
course.
like a, oh yeah, hey, I'm, you know, but
Yes.
if anybody asks me, it's nothing, you know, and even just also when I think about ministry, so, you know, church, I haven't really been to church ever since we moved to Brandywine.
Yeah.
I mean, but church is always in your heart, right? So,
Yeah.
but just being able to have a community of people that you can openly trust that at the end of the day, they're not going to treat you any differently because of this experience that you've had. We all have had experiences, and just because you've had an experience doesn't make you less of a person or less of a black woman or less of a, you know, just because that happened.
Yeah.
That was a part of my assignment. That was
Yeah.
a part of what I was supposed to go through to be able to see the world in the way that God needs me to see it.
Yeah.
So I think that whenever people ask me those questions, although they might feel a little awkward at first, it has outgrown the awkwardness for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's important too. Like, what I love too is like it's amazing as I continue to share these stories, the layers involved, and the layers I'm seeing more and more are about your identity. So one of the things that and on previous guests is that when it's come up, it's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm adopted, by the way, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but they'll say, no, you're not. You know, what do you mean? No, I'm not. Like, I am. Like, who makes that up? And I think, like you said, I'm glad that your experience has been one of comfortability, right? But I think people receive it because they don't know how to respond to that.
Right.
So we need to have these conversations. We need to have this platform to be able to share stories. I think it really makes us unique. And it sounds like too, like you still may have some missing puzzle pieces, like as you were sharing that you never met your dad.
Yeah.
And so people don't understand, and I want to make sure I continue to repeat this. Your story can be good, it can be bad, it can have ugly parts, but that's not the point and purpose of sharing the story, right? It's about identity. Like I was sharing with her before we started recording, you know, this podcast was birthed out of my own missing puzzle pieces that I may never get answers to.
Yeah.
But that's okay. But being able to share other people's stories, their walk through this process is beautiful. So now let's shift to you being a mom now, right?
Yeah.
Raising your own biological children. At some point, you know, so just tell me, tell us a little bit about your kids, how old they are.
So I have a 16-year-old, and then my son is 5, and then I have 2 bonus kids.
Okay. And how old are they?
13 and 15.
Yeah.
So being a mom has been such a blessing, especially because I feel like there's always been a missing piece there for me, just with a mom and just the identity of what I now have with my kids as being a mother. So even knowing that I've been adopted, I have a biological mother, there was still like a level of like unconnected, unfamiliar, I hadn't really fully had that full, I feel like a process of like being with my mom. You know what I mean?
So I'll put it like this, because this is how I see it: mothering while motherless.
Yes.
Like, you don't have that to pull on. Yeah, you were mothered, but it's different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mothering while motherless. So walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah.
And your experience as being a mom and parenting.
Yeah. So now, I mean, being a mom and like having, I always feel like it's like a mandate over your life where it's like, hey, look, now it's not just you. You can't just move and just do what you want to do and like, you know, you actually now have two other souls that are depending on you to figure this out as they figure out what they need to figure out next on their own. And from that aspect, it did become a lot more like, I really do need to teach them that the way that God has allowed me to see life is not the way that the world sees the world, right? It's not the way that when somebody looks at you, you know, as a young black boy, as a young black girl, being just exactly that. They're not going to see you as how, for me, growing up, and everyone always says, like, you know, the comments where people say we don't see color, it kind of bothers me a little bit, only from the aspect from I've been able to see and live with people who have literally taken me into their home, have clothed me, have bathed me, I did not have a weird upbringing like I was put out to this side and they ate over here or like nothing like that. Like it kind of is like, it's just a really unique blessing to see that there are really good people out there who are not, you know, who are white, they could be whatever. But just from that standpoint of, unfortunately, trying to explain to my children that is a really rare experience that people have. Yeah. And although it exists, that's not the reality that most people at the end of the day are able to have. And because of that, you do have to walk into these rooms and you do have to be able to assert yourself and understand that at the end of the day, you are not like you, how do I say, like, I don't want to say like growing up that I felt like I was different, but it's just like a level of, how do I say a word?
Would I say like how you were
perceived
when
in
you
that
walked in the room?
Right. It was a different experience. It was a different experience, and being able to walk into the world without that, and I don't want to say it's a veil. I don't feel like it was a veil because it wasn't like I didn't know, but it was just a level of kindness that I think sometimes people did show me because they knew who my parents were, or because they knew that at the end, even though they probably did feel different ways, I kind of was a little blindsided to that a little bit. So I just, you know, as a mom, as a black woman, raising two black children, to have them understand that at the end of the day, like, you do have to really become aware of who you're around. And it's not to say this in a bad way, like, it's just the aspect of like, you know, you just really have to be, you have to understand what's going on. You have to understand what's going on.
Preparing your children.
Yeah, it's just downloading a lot. Sorry, I'm like trying to like really fixate on like what, you know, this journey has been, but it's been extremely rewarding being a mom and having this relationship with them.
Yeah, I can say too, one of the things that I think as far as being a mom, I think that the level of depth in my motherhood is different, because it's very important for my girls to know as much as I can tell them about me, about my mental health, about me as a person. You know, it's because I never met my mom, so like it's important for them to know as much about me and how I maneuver and how I work. So, because one day I'm not going to be here, right? So I want to make sure they have a full understanding who their mother is, right? So I feel like sometimes my parenting is on a deeper level. So I'll just share real quick. There's been many times when you'll have different, you know, different stories about like people talking about their family, and you know, I've had different discussions where I may have said I'm adopted, and then, you know, people will say, well, you know, they may have given their parents up, or even as I've started this podcast, there's been many instances where people were like, well, you know, well, what if the birth mother doesn't want to be connected, right? There's so many different ways that a story can go and be narrated, right?
Yep.
And so I just feel like let me just because my brain is I'm in overload too. There's I feel like when you are born, you have no control over being here. You know, children don't ask to be here. They have no control over being born. But I think that it's very important that you know about your identity. Doesn't matter whether it's good, bad, or ugly. You still have a right as a human being to know the narrative of how you got here, right? And I think sometimes people try to hide that because it's ugly or it's bad. You still do not get the right to tell a human being who had no control over being here that they can't know or they shouldn't know, right? So I think that's really important, really important to share. So let's kind of go more into about your identity. You as a woman now, how has this whole experience affected your identity? You being a mom, you being a business owner, how you move throughout life. Kind of share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think for me, and I guess it's kind of vague. So when you say like how has it affected my identity, could you make it like do you think you move different based on on your background, based on what you knew and how you grew up? Do you think just on your conversations with other people in your network or your family that maybe you have a more in-depth or more deeper experience about life and how, you know what I mean? If that helps. Yeah, kind of like, it's funny because I feel like in this time that I'm in right now, I think about myself less. I don't know how to explain that. I have so many things that I feel like I want to do, and I've always tried to prove that I can do because of my upbringing, my overall like, hey, like my life could have been so different.
Yeah.
It could have been so different. And when I think about how different my life could have been if I wasn't adopted, and I look at the odds, I was born in Chicago, you know, I have family, extent from my biological family that have died in different catastrophic ways that I'm like, if things were different, things would be so different. And I feel like I've always tried to push towards wanting more than what not what I've had, but like what I could have had. So like, I've always have been in spaces of just saying, no, this isn't enough. You know, like, no, I want more. Like, no, I can do more. Like trying to challenge, not even just myself, but like, you know, the people that I've connected with. I feel like being an entrepreneur, I have just constantly pushed through limits that people that I would talk to would say, hey, look, that's going to take you a long time, and that's not going to be possible, or you're not going to be able to do that because X, Y, and Z. Or, you know, actually, before I started my perm makeup business, I had dated somebody who was just like, well, you're not going to be able to really connect with women because you're not really, he said to me, he's like, you're not really black. And I was like, excuse me? How does that make any sense?
What does that mean?
What does that even mean? It doesn't make any sense. But I was always on a mission to like create spaces to where other people and myself could just be free in who we are without having to have all the pieces together. Right? And even if you did have all the pieces together, it shaped your perspective to look at your situation differently. And sometimes that's in a negative way. Sometimes we have a lot of self-sabotage, self-hate that we portray towards ourselves, and we don't even realize that we do it. And being in certain spaces, especially close, intimate spaces, I was able to piece that, or to pick that out from certain people. So I kind of felt like all of the working spaces that I have been in was always tailored to supporting somebody else and becoming their best self. And I think in the process of doing that, I didn't realize it until now, sometimes in doing that, you push yourself to the back of everything, and you start asking yourself, like, am I at my very best? Am I becoming my best self? Is this what I want? And things change from, my goodness, sometimes day to day to, year to year. But I think that I think identity wise, I feel like I've always tried to, I feel not trying to find my identity in others, but trying to connect these gaps that I think most people have, regardless on if you're adopted or not. Like, life is not what we always think that it is, and certain things happen that we didn't think would happen, and it's forced us to have to go down a certain path. So, and I like those things. I feel like those mysterious, kind of unusual moments, like honestly, building a permanent makeup business has allowed me to create spaces for all types of women. And when I listen to their experiences, their perspectives, and I'm like, yo, none of us got it figured out.
No.
You know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is that we're able to still push because we have that level of support. We have people that understand. We have people that say, at the end of the day, just because this is your circumstance doesn't make it who you are. You can push through this. And, just because you might see it this way today, if somebody I used to love doing, when I used to do personal styling, being able to show somebody that something that you saw on a hanger, you probably thought, nah, that's not for me. You put it on, I can show you how to piece it together. And it showed you a whole new side of yourself where you're like, wow, like you have this, like you stepped into something. It was a moment of stepping into that. So, and I say all that because I know the whole question was about my identity, but I feel like I've created spaces for other people to kind of allow myself to understand myself a little bit better.
What I like too about what you were saying is, like, you know in the beginning, right? The same thing for me. I remember I came from very humble beginnings, and then to realize when you say, well, dang, my life could have went this way, right? And then you realize being chosen, and then your life being steered in another direction is so unique. Like my mother was schizophrenic and bipolar, right? And her giving me up, I was the only one that she gave up. So it's like, wow, like, God was all in it.
How many other siblings do you have?
I have 3 other brothers, 2 older brothers and a younger brother, and I was the only girl. So it's like, but I think about the knowledge I found out about her, how she was sick. So, and then being fostered, and then being chosen by a couple who couldn't have children. It's just like, when I think about how good my life has been, you're like, wait a minute, it could have been it could have went down another way, And then I like too how you shared about the biracial, about the being adopted by whites. I remember my daughters and I had a really rough season in our life where we were homeless, and we ended up being taken in by a white family that knew how hard I was trying to give them the best education and knew what we were going through. And we lived with them for like a year and a half. They're truly, everything is not about race. Good people are good people, and I just really like the fact that you were able to be exposed to different cultures, different people, and have that different perspective, because a lot of times we limit ourselves in just being around our own. No, that's not the world. It's other cultures, be exposed to that, the other kinds of people, get to know other kind of people. You can sit in other kind of rooms and have different discussions because of your experiences. So I think that's great. I really wanted to, while I was asking about the parenting, because I really do believe that we parent from a different lens, being as though the way our life began was so completely different. I know me, and it could be intense at times. I want them to know their love. I want them to know about me. You know what I mean? Because one day I might not be here. So I think that's important. You shared the same sentiments about your children.
Yeah.
So so let me ask: is there any other things that you didn't get to share about your story, about your identity? Any unique things that may have happened to you along the way that you can kind of share?
Life is just life, and it just, and I think that's like been a part of my mindset, is like I just have to keep moving forward. Like whatever happens, it happens, there's a reason for it, and I try not to dwell on certain things, because I can't always say, and I can't say that I had just a perfect upbringing, like as far as like, you know, going to school and like, you know, the way that I saw myself then. I think, you know, there was a part of me that was just like, why am I this way? Like, why, you know, why do I look like this? Or, you know, how do I work certain things? But I also felt like I did have the support and the resources to piece those things together along the way. But, you know, I just think that, man, sometimes it's just like everything just keeps changing, like in life in general, that I feel the acknowledgement of, or not acknowledgement, but just the fact that I've been adopted, sometimes it just, I don't know, it just doesn't faze me anymore.
Yeah.
Like it
But see,
doesn't.
that's just a testament to how you were supported and loved. You know, so let's say when you were like in high school and college and things like that, were there ever any weird moments when you were walking in a room with your family?
Probably when I got pregnant, yeah, with my daughter. I think that was a hard.
So share a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, that was a little spicy moment. You know, on this journey of like becoming, right? My mom again passed away when I was 10. Didn't have a connection really with my biological mom. I didn't really have a mother figure, so I was just kind of
young.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of just doing whatever. It felt like I had friends. I had, you know, we had family friends, but it just kind of felt like I didn't really have like a parental figure to say like, hey, even though you're exploring, this is great. There's some things you just shouldn't be doing. Period. No matter what.
Right.
So, you know, and some of those things, you know, even just from the aspect of, you know, not having connection with my biological father. My dad is great. He was always working though, so it was like sometimes there was just no parental figures at all around. So with three of us, my sisters, my two sisters, parties, like you know, just kind of wanting to enjoy this sense of life, but also just kind of feeling like, yeah, no, nobody told us, like we didn't really have that like acknowledgement sometimes. So I think when I first told my dad that I was pregnant, and then trying to share it with my family, that became a tough point for me, because I knew my dad was going to be upset, and he didn't really react as bad as I thought he was going to react. It was really my family, and I didn't really get the opportunity to tell them in the way that I wanted to tell them. One of my cousins ended up sharing information that I had asked her not to share, so she kind of went against the, you know, my trust to do that. And because of that, there were some dialogues of like, oh well, we probably, so on let's say further far, like family, my distant family. Some of them would be like, oh well, we would have certain words were like, oh well, we could have probably expected that from Deyonne.
Now how old were you?
I was 17.
Yeah.
I was like, you know, and certain things did make me feel like from that aspect that it was more of like, well, what do you mean expected it from me, you know, or like, what were you trying to say? And I did react. Yes, I did react to those comments. But again, also having my family, like my dad, my other sisters having my back of like, yeah, you have a complete right to react that way with people saying certain things like that to you, or about you. So when I addressed everybody, it was, you know, that was a moment that I felt was, you know, an experience. And even from that standpoint of trying to build a family. So from the other standpoint of like my daughter's father, like their family, like their perspectives, I didn't really feel like it was too, like they knew that I was adopted. I didn't feel like I was treated differently, but there were some things of like, well, how now that you're having a child together, how is that going to look? Like how they started asking more questions of like, okay, well, how was she raised?
Okay.
Type of thing.
And this is the extended family, right?
Yeah. So that kind of felt like a little bit of like having to prove myself in some ways. But
I can understand it, but as you share, it's like at the end of the day, you were courageous, right? And then love supersedes everything. So even though you're saying your dad may have been working, you still were loved and supported.
100%.
And that is so critical.
Yeah.
That's so critical. Your confidence, your self-esteem, love conquers all. So you being supported in that way is awesome. The depth of the love that was shown to you, the support that was shown to you and provided, you know. So that's good stuff.
And there was, I think, one of the biggest moments, and I think it's because I try to push this back into my mind so I don't have to think about it. It was in high school, 9th grade, that transitional year. That was pretty challenging because you go from like building friends and them knowing who your family is to trying to build new friends and people that not who don't really understand it and create these different perspectives of what they think it is before they actually have time to like meet everybody and like understand like the dynamic. Going into that, high school, my 9th grade year, I fell into like they said it was a biological depression. So 9th grade year was hard for me. And if it wasn't for my friends at the time, I think that it would have been really, really, really crucial because I didn't really understand it. It literally felt like one day I had this like cloud come over my head, and anytime that I thought about going to school or taking the bus, I would just get really high anxiety, and I wouldn't go.
And there's just so much going on. You're talking about puberty, changing schools, like you said. That's just nervous. That's awkward for anybody.
On the first day of 9th grade, I remember going to class, and there was this girl who was in there. And I guess we had another class with each other. So we were walking down the hallway, and she was a black girl. She asked, she was just like, we were talking. I felt like it was a genuine conversation, and then it quickly turned like not genuine to where she was just like, oh, so she's like, why do you wear so much makeup on your face, and why do you do things like this or like that? And she was kind of mocking me in a way.
Okay.
And I was with another friend at the time who, I didn't really know how to take it because I was just like, I felt like, okay, this went from like, hey, like, hey, like, and then it kind of just turned a little mean girl out of nowhere. And one of my friends had stood up for me, and she was a white girl that was standing up for me. And they actually ended up getting into a fight. We had a fight on like the first day of 9th grade.
Wow.
Over makeup. And over the fact that this girl felt like I was, I guess, trying to impersonate a white person.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was crazy. And I think that was like it was either not first day because it was first week in 9th grade.
Okay.
That was a lot. And then from there, just kind of showing up every day was just hard. I just remember I did basketball. I played on the basketball team.
Okay.
And there were some girls that had been talking about it and asking me questions about it. And some people just make up their own,
narrative in their
narrative
own head,
of what actually happened. And things just started becoming like a whole conversation about like, oh, well, this other black girl said something to you and you took it in a certain way, and now you're siding with this white girl, and what side are you on type of thing. And it's like, what is going on here? Like nobody actually even knows what happened.
Right.
And that was hard for me. And I think that was a big part of when I started realizing how cliquey things were, and change going from middle school into high school. And I think I just, in my head, I was just like, I am like, what is this? Like, I was just like, I don't know what is going on. I just didn't want to go. To the point where I started really getting like,
I think for me, as you share, like I think it's so important for us as black people to be exposed to other cultures, because I can say, because that example is an example of ignorance. You know, if you only speak from one experience, right? If your
Mm-hmm.
only experience is the black experience, to me that's a problem. You should be able to talk to other cultures,
Mm-hmm.
and the only way that happens is being exposed to other cultures and other people.
Mm-hmm.
Because for someone based on that story that you just shared, that's a limited mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the fact that you were able at such a young age to be around whites, Asians, and other cultures speaks to of your exposure, you know, where there's this other experience where there's lack of exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is unique. I think that's so unique and so cool, though. And I think it gave you a certain level of confidence and being able to navigate through challenging situations in your youth,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then even when you were sharing about now that when you became pregnant and now you having to address the rest of your family, you know, with confidence at
Mm-hmm.
such a young age. You know what I mean? It
Mm-hmm.
speaks a lot to your unique story. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that's also like the umbrella for human beauty for my business.
Yeah.
You know, I really wanted, again, to create a space where I was acknowledging myself as a woman of color. So hue, so it's not human, so it's HUE for the hue of the human race, starting with myself as a black
Yes.
woman
Yes.
and creating spaces for everyone to be beautiful in their own
Yes.
ways. So
I love that.
yeah.
So before we wrap up, any other nuggets?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
This
I
is
want to thank
good.
you. I want to thank you for being my guest because she lives far away. I want to thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story. I'm so appreciative. I'm grateful. So thank you,
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
There we go. Another episode of Unbroken, Stories of Adoption and Identity.